Welcome to the Free to Lead podcast with your host, Troy Maxwell from Freedom House Church.
Hey, just want to welcome everybody to Free to Lead. My name is Troy Maxwell, pastor of Freedom House Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are excited that you decided to join us today. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I want to thank you for telling people about our podcast, Free to Lead. I want to thank you about just commenting on it, sharing it with all your friends. And today, I'm telling you, we got a special treat for you today because I have two of some very close people with me. They are the worship leaders, worship directors at our wonderful church here in Charlotte, Freedom House. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about just that relationship between the senior leader, the pastor, and the worship leaders, kind of that dynamic of what's happening in churches these days. And worship is a big deal. And so I've got Clint Pugh
Hey,
with
everybody.
us. What's up, Clint? How you doing, man?
Great to be here.
Yep. And what do you do? What's your title? Because titles matter to you, right? Because you're a worship guy.
Well, probably more. I'm going to take this opportunity.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm kidding. Probably more so because I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. Titles matter because not everyone gets a trophy. I'm a 3 achiever. My title is Executive Director of Worship, Production, Creative.
Right. And how long have you been at Freedom House?
Been attending 11 years, on staff 10.
10. Just celebrated 10 years with us.
Yes, kind of
just
a big
this
deal.
month.
Yes.
That's
been
right, man.
An amazing journey and
That's
a
right.
privilege to be a part of it.
And then we've got one of my adopted daughters, Leslie Lockwood. And tell us a little bit about you.
I am the worship director here, and I've been at Freedom House for about almost 15 years.
Wow.
And so I'm loving it.
Yep. And we've done a couple albums. You can find those on iTunes, but that's not the point of this.
No.
But I wanted to just spend a little time with them talking about this relationship. And why don't you guys really quickly, and Leslie, if you want to get started on this, talk about how important it is about the relationship between the pastor and the worship leader and what that looks like in our context.
It's absolutely paramount, actually. And I think one of the most important things that you have to really put the work in for is the trust. And trust going both ways. Trust going from the senior pastor to the worship leader and the worship leader to the senior pastor. Because when the trust is there, when the senior pastor makes a call that maybe you don't agree with or maybe you don't even
But that
like,
doesn't happen, right? There's not
Oh.
that
Never
tension
happens at Freedom
Never.
House.
where there's like we everything we talk about, we agree on everything.
It's harmonious all the time.
Not
There's
when it's not an if, it's a when.
always opportunity
Yeah.
for submission.
When that happens, yes, we get the opportunity to submit and not just submit, but to support.
Yep.
And if we can support as the worship leader, you, our senior pastors, that in turn just breeds trust goes both ways.
Yeah.
And then maybe the reins are loosened just a little bit or more opportunities are given. And it's a really beautiful relationship, but you got to put the work into it, and it takes time,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I think one of the things that has been really good with our culture is we have been real intentional about describing and talking about the win of what a weekend is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the specifically the first few minutes of a worship service and what that looks like. The 18 to 20 minutes that requires to get people engaged and connected in the service. And, we have been real intentional about setting the stage for people to come in. And a lot of people ask me, what is the win? What does it look like to win in worship? And I believe that when you have people on the platform whose hearts are for God, number one,
Yeah.
for Jesus,
Definitely.
to lift up Jesus. It's
Yeah.
not about them. The center of
Right.
attention is not on them.
Yep.
The center of attention is not on whether the music is perfect
Right.
Right.
or the production is just right or the songs are in the right pitch, which are all important things.
Yes, of course.
But the win is about worshiping Jesus.
Definitely.
Man, it just makes such a big difference. And when we rally around that, when we do have those moments of tension and issues where we don't get along, it's easy to kind of go back and go, all right, here's what's important in
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
and let's make sure we remember what's important.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Clint, you've been here a long time,
Yeah.
and talk about just how you have framed worship in your own personal life, and then carry that over into your job, so to speak, or your calling on staff.
Yeah, well, growing up in the home of a worship leader, my dad was a worship leader. I saw it modeled on and off the platform. Thankfully, that the older I get, I realized that was a privilege, and God's gift to me was to have a dad who modeled that, and a mom, even though she wasn't musical. They were worshipers throughout life. And so for me, on a personal level, it really is about the other 90% of my life off platform. If my job and my life is supposed to be worship, if Paul said a living sacrifice is what we're supposed to be, my worship isn't just refined or contained to a few songs on a weekend.
Right.
So for me, it's all about my heart attitude. It's about the way I love my wife. It's the way I communicate with my staff and team that I oversee, or friends that I hang out with. So on a personal level, worship is more than a song to me. A song is just a vehicle to express that worship. And that's where on the weekend, if I can bring my life, good, bad, or ugly, and express it through that song in a genuine, authentic way, I think that's what God's looking for, worshiping in spirit and in truth. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just here, honest with my life. He's gonna breathe on that, so to speak, or he's gonna move through that, and people feel a sense of genuine, authentic worship.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good. So I know you guys want to know a little bit about the senior pastor and kind of the way we think about things.
Yeah, your
And
perspective.
so you brought some questions too to talk about. Why don't you throw one at me so we can talk about that?
We did. Well, I'll throw one out.
All right.
Pastor Troy, what do you hear other senior pastors express concern about regarding worship, or whether it's a worship leader, a worship team, or just the worship culture? What do you hear, and what do you hold as like a primary concern?
Well, I think that I'm going to be a little bit blunt
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah, that's all right.
Because, and you guys aren't like this at all, but we see this all the time, and maybe we even can go down this road a little bit, is we see a lot of worship leaders, the people, so to speak, that
Yep.
are involved in leading worship, bringing all the attention on themselves.
Yeah.
And they're looking at it
Yeah.
more as a gig on the weekend. We've talked a lot about the whole pay-to-play situation, and maybe we can talk about that in another podcast, because I
Sure.
think that would be something to really dig into, just the value of volunteering as
Yeah.
opposed to looking at it as a job, and if I don't get paid to play, then I'm not going to participate
Right.
in worship.
Yep.
And so what I found is there's a lot of spotlight on the person.
Yep.
And I think for me as a senior pastor, that's a challenge, because ego gets in the way. There's a lot of, I want this and I want that and I want it this way. And then when you're trying to lead a church and you got all these different people that are involved in the context of it, it's real difficult to navigate that. And so that's what I see. I see a lot of younger guys that are looking for a record deal. They're looking for to write the song, the oceans of their generation, kind of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Totally.
Which are great songs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those are just phenomenal. But that's not what it's about.
Right.
It's about preparing an atmosphere for
Right.
when people walk in to your church,
Yeah.
that they sense the presence of God.
Yeah.
That there's a touch of heaven on the music. And the only way that we can do that is when we humble ourselves and realize it's not about me.
Yep.
It's not about my song. It's not about my record deal. It's not about the way that I look. That's not what it's about. It's about seeing lives changed
Yeah.
and ministry happening during those. I believe that the songs that we sing are prophetic over
Yes.
the people that are there. I believe they're prophetic over the region that we're in, the city that we're in. So, and a lot of songs are written about us as opposed to written about God. And so I just want to see those changes. And so now let me throw a question at you, because this is one of the tensions that I find.
Yeah.
How do you deal with people like that? So if you
have ego getting
yeah,
in the way.
yeah. So you have somebody come in, I can sing, and they can. I can play, and they can, and they're very talented.
Yeah.
And you've probably, and I know we've talked about this, you've probably had situations where people ended up in front, singing, leading, and they weren't necessarily the right person.
Right.
Talent-wise, they were right. Gifting-wise, they were right. But just from their character, they ended up being a bit toxic to the environment, or it was all about them and stuff like that. How do you guys handle that? How do you process that?
Well, one of the things that Clint and I say often to each other is you promote what you tolerate. And so when we find something like that happening on the team with somebody, we have to be quick to address it, or else it can spread. And so if it's somebody who's already on the team, we will sit down with them right away. Immediately. That can't be put off at all. And we will talk with them about it. We will have some really direct conversation.
Yeah.
And also kind of help them process through maybe where's that coming from? Why is that? Where did that entitlement come from? And just kind of maybe redirect.
So you're looking
and
for
correct.
something that's underlying.
Oh, absolutely.
You're trying to help them, right?
Absolutely, because we love them.
Yeah.
And
We love
ultimately,
them.
we're called to pastor our team.
Yeah.
It's not just about the experience on the weekend.
No.
That is a byproduct of the health of our team. And so,
Right.
Leslie, what I hear you saying is, in that moment, you're looking to pastor the person to say, I care about you enough to be honest and
Yeah.
speak the truth. What's going on here?
Right. And that's if somebody's already on our team and that comes up. So we definitely want to address that right away. Coming into the church, though, we try to take our time with people. Time reveals a lot.
Yeah.
And so
What does that look like when you say take your time?
So
So
we
somebody
don't-
comes in and they go, I was on American Idol,
Yeah.
and I'm the greatest
Oh,
singer
we
you've
have
ever
those.
I led
heard.
worship at
Oh,
my
yeah.
last church.
I led
I'm the
worship.
And I was the
American
best
Darlene
one they
chick.
had.
Yeah, I can
yeah.
sing like an
Oh, yeah.
angel,
All
and
the
they
time.
can.
Yeah,
So
sure.
what happens?
Some
What
of 'em.
happens? Give us like some practical things. I'm just thinking about this, and I know we do a really good. You guys do a phenomenal job at this.
We try.
at processing this. We
do our best.
Years of learning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And so how do you take somebody from the door to the platform? What does that look like?
Well, if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I want to be a part of the worship team," what we first and foremost do is we have them fill out just an application online that helps us get to know them a little bit better. What's your actual experience like? What's
Right.
your story? And a little bit more like that.
How long have you been at
How
Freedom
long
House?
have you been at Freedom House?
Are you
and
serving on another team?
all
Do you
of
require that?
kind-
Do you think somebody needs to be serving on another team before they can actually be on the platform?
We don't always require that, simply because it's a case-by-case basis. And
Okay.
so there isn't a standard you have to, like, relationship is really a big thing for us. So someone could have been serving somewhere else for a long time and we still don't know who they are. And so we ask more about them. We go ahead and have them do some video auditions because it doesn't hurt to get a video audition in. But once
Like a YouTube video
Yep,
or just
yep.
something on their phone or
Yep,
something like that.
it's
and they're
pretty
singing.
simple.
Part of our process.
And it just
Gotcha.
helps us get to know just kind of their skill set level. Then after that, we sit down and have a one-on-one with them. And that's where we talk to them about life, talk to them about family, talk to them about where they've been, if they've been at another church, what kind of church environment was it? What's their family life like?
What led them to leave that other church
Yes,
and come to
well, very direct questions,
Right,
things
right,
like that.
Right.
And we also ask our team, people who are getting ready to board on team, to go to Get On Track, which is
Our growth track.
our growth track.
Right.
Yeah,
It's our onboarding church-wide.
because we want to make sure before we ever put somebody on the platform, they understand
The culture,
the
the
culture of Freedom
values.
House as a whole.
How to grow,
You
what
know,
serving looks like.
All
Yeah.
of that kind of stuff. And so that's something that's really important to us too. So we don't just take it from I'm interested to great, now you're on platform. We ask them to be a part of Get On Track. And then once kind of those main things have been hit and we feel like, okay, we feel like there's potential for this person, both relationship-wise and skill set-wise, because it's not just about the skill set. We want to make sure that they're also good for our team,
Yeah.
relationship wise.
Right.
So, and we'll go out, we'll have coffee with them, we'll sit and have those direct conversations. And then
How long does that usually take? Is there a time frame?
it's different per person,
Okay.
really.
So it could be fast based on,
Yes, it
Right.
could be faster. It could be, I mean, if we don't know this person at all,
then it's going to take
you know,
some
we're
time.
going to take some time.
Yeah, that's good.
But if we know them, like we've had plenty of people come in that like are referred by somebody we know. Cool, let's go out to coffee. Let's get to know them a little bit better. And then we have, after that, we have our own culture classes as far as our team goes.
And that's called Emerge.
That's called Emerge.
Yeah.
And
We'll link that to our podcast so you can check out what we do on our website so you can see kind of the process because I think that'd be good to help people.
It's very intentional, very
And you
systematic.
guys have wrote all that,
Yep.
put all that
Yep.
together. That's good.
Yep, very systematic. And back to your original question, to put a bow on it with this, it's a process designed to identify the right kind of people and weed out and hopefully coach and teach so that we're not just putting talent and ego
Right,
on the platform
yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
a position of leadership.
Right.
And so we work hard to guard that. And we have very specific things in place to help make sure we're leading people well and leading our church well.
Yeah. So now we've kind of shifted as a church from one campus
Yeah.
to now within a very short period of time we have 4 campuses. 3 of which are locations
Yep.
in our city, and then one is online where we're doing a lot of stuff online. How has that changed any of this, or has it changed any of it?
It
The
has.
scalable part of it.
Yeah, the scalable part, if you're talking about Emerge specifically, we had to learn 3 campuses, physical campuses, is a game changer. A lot of church planters will tell you that. People who understand church systems will tell you that. And we learned that firsthand. We were anticipating it, thankfully. But a learning point for us was Emerge had been happening at our 2 physical campuses. So the same processes and rhythms were happening at both campuses. When we went to 3 campuses, we realized, wait a second, this isn't going to scale. This isn't going to work like we want it to and serve the people well and serve us well. So we actually centralized the process for Emerge to our central campus to...
So everybody has to come through at the central campus,
Yes.
no matter what campus they're at.
Exactly. And we took that, not only did we see that observation for ourselves within our campuses, but that also came out of a couple conversations we had with other churches and worship leaders
Right.
who were at our size or larger, and determined this is a better way, it's a better experience of onboarding for that person. It's more effective, and it's going to serve them better and set us up to win. So we made that adjustment. That's one scalable thing we had to change. And then also it forces us on the relational, because we're big on that, and the culture aspect of our team to be even more intentional, because vision and culture can get diluted across multiple campuses.
Yeah.
So, our the way we pull teams together and develop community and cast vision, we've had to roll with the punches and
Right.
tweak and adjust so that we're making sure it's still a priority.
Yeah, yeah. So on the weekend, one of the things that we talk about a lot is just this unity aspect, the flow between
Yeah.
the senior leader. And this is one of the things I think is a missing point, a missing part. And I don't know what's changed over the last few years and why this has happened, but I feel like that there are a lot of times when senior pastors don't connect with their worship leaders on a regular basis, or even a campus pastor. If you're at a campus
Yeah.
and you have that leader and you have to facilitate the service, I think having that connection is extremely important. And so we do talk a lot.
Yeah.
I have a bit of influence in the song selection sometimes. You guys pretty much pick all the different worship music that we're
Right.
doing, but every now and then I'll feel something, and
Yep.
you guys are real good to be able to allow me, because I'm a worshiping pastor. And
You are.
let me say this real quick too. I
Yeah.
think this is important, specifically in regards to senior leaders. Guys, don't sit in the back room during worship.
Yeah.
Even if you have multiple services, get out there and participate. People are watching you during the worship time, watching you sing, watching you lift your hands, watching you clap, participate,
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it energizes the people on the platform as
It
well.
absolutely does.
When
Yeah.
they see their senior pastor on the front row, going after God.
Yeah.
You know, I learned that a long time ago from other
Yeah.
leaders that I was in contact with and connection with, and that's been a part. And I've done 4, 5, 6 services on a weekend, but I'm in the worship set
Yep.
every single time because I think
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
so it's worth it
Yes.
to invest
Yeah.
your authority,
Yeah.
your energy in that atmosphere. It influences you. Don't you guys feel that way?
Absolutely. Completely.
Totally. As leaders, you and we, you as the senior leader, any pastors listening, and we as worship leaders, unity means we're both going after the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
yeah.
and people watch whether a pastor is worshiping or not. Are they in the service or not? And people can sense if there's unity between a good dynamic and relationship. And so the worshiping culture of the church really is set by that dual dynamic. First the senior pastor, but then also the worship leader. So you have modeled that very well, and that has directly impacted the culture of worship within our church.
Yeah, I think so too. And it bothers me sometimes when I watch a lot of guys just kind of sitting in the back and not doing a whole lot and just kind of waiting to do their deal, to preach their message and whatnot. And I just, I think it's important for us to give towards that environment and that connection. So, all right, one more question I want to ask you guys. So when it comes to the future, what it looks like culture in the future, what do you see? What are some of the things that you see as coming ahead? Where do you see things going? What's your thoughts?
Culture. Actually, it's funny because Pastor Clint and I were speaking about this just this morning, but recently we sat down as the leadership of the worship area, and we kind of redefined one of our vision for our team. And it used to be we're gonna go shake the nations, and it used to be we're gonna write songs that shake the world and all of that kind of stuff. And we realized, people really just want community. Like it's not just about changing the world, but about their world and changing their world.
Yeah.
And we realized community is a really, really important aspect. And a lot of times we can focus on the talent aspect, or we can focus on even just the Sunday morning aspect, and we forget about the relationship, during the week. And so we realized, hey, if we want a healthy team and healthy culture, the relationship is going to have to be the thing that we put the most of our time into.
Wow,
and
that's good.
So
I agree. I think we're moving back into, kind of this idea of a small church with a lot of people feel, just this idea of community. We're seeing it in Charlotte, and I'm sure I'm hearing it all over the country that the same thing's happening.
Yeah, we're hearing at churches that are even larger than us. They might have a name, they might have a brand, but at the end of the day, oftentimes people aren't just looking for that. That may be what brings them in initially, but what keeps people is community
That's so good.
and relationship. And so we'd rather put our efforts towards that than trying to build a brand or build a name.
Yeah.
Good.
And maybe the flip side of that coin, very well said, Leslie, the relational community aspect is big. And it even caused us to rewrite our vision statement, if you will. Like, we're a community of people passionate about God's presence and doing life together.
Yeah.
Because both have to matter. And so, really quickly, the flip side of that coin is I think we will see that reflected. We're already seeing it reflected, to be honest, through churches like Hillsong, Bethel, etc., who place a value on the local church and the community of their team.
Yeah.
You see the fruit of that in the music written, in the songs written, and the power thereof, and honestly, the spiritual aspect of God breathing on or really utilizing in a powerful way, putting them on a pedestal as influencers in the world. And so I think that's where we're headed, is a more communal aspect, a more family aspect. And I think the more we do that as worship leaders and pastors, we'll see the fruit we want to see, and the talent will follow, the songs will follow, the music will follow. But that's just all a secondary byproduct of the primary thing, which is love Jesus and love people.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Man, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and thank you for listening to Free to Lead, and I hope that you will give us some feedback. Let us know. Make sure you share this with all your friends, your neighbors, your enemies, anybody that you think might like this. And we're just here to help you. We're helping you to be the leader that God's called you to be in the 21st century. So thank you so much for joining with us. And we hope to hear from you, and we can't wait to bring something next month. Every month we'll be here for you. So thanks, guys. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Clint.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thanks for listening. You can always connect with us at free@freedomhouse.cc or freetolead.org. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.